Welcome to Up Fables. If destroying your childhood is something you enjoy, you've come to the right place. I did not mean to just teleport there. Um, so this is season 2. It's finally 2021. Bless. Um, we had some technical difficulties a little bit earlier, so we decided to do some backgrounds for fun to make us feel better. Because, yay.
2021 is already starting off rough.
Bad.
Yeah.
So this month, the whole theme is going to be about weddings in honor of our very own Vi, who is getting married. You know, like wedding bells to just. Okay.
Ding dong. Oh my god.
This may or may not stay around. We don't know. So today is Titania. She's gonna get us started here. So what story about weddings are we doing? I feel like there's a lot of fairy tales about weddings.
I mean, saying it's about a wedding is kind of a stretch. And I feel like most fairy tales, it's kind of like just the ending. Or in this case, the idea of a wedding is the beginning of the story and the ending. So it kind of counts, right?
It's like a 2-for-1.
Yeah, totally.
We're stretching the meaning of this month. It's
yeah, we just wanted to do something special. And that's why I have wedding hair today.
Yeah.
But so my story is I chose the Grimm version. This also appears in the Green Fairy book. And if my furriness hasn't given it away, if you're familiar with Grimm, I'm doing one. It translates to all fur or all the furs. I looked up the pronunciation, and I'm going to try it. Our nope. We're done.
Okay.
Allerlera. Yeah, but there's like that Germany R sound.
Allerlera.
Cannot do.
I don't know. I can read German. I can't speak it.
Allerlera. I don't know. I apologize to all of Germany for that.
We love
but
you.
For Christmas, I actually got this really awesome new edition of Grimm Fairy Tales, like a little pocket edition. So I'm super excited to use it. Even though I have like 4 versions.
You know, there's nothing wrong.
Books. What?
There's nothing wrong with it, you know?
No, there's not. Never have too many of the same book.
Right. Especially different versions. Excuse me.
Yes. Yes. It's just different cover. This one's my travel Grimm.
Right.
Book. I've got my leather-bound collectible Grimm book. I've got the one that I read a lot.
You got the one that makes you look bougie, the one that makes you look more bougie. And then you got the one that you actually enjoy reading from, you know.
I really enjoy reading from this. It's so small. I'm like, this is dainty. It's wonderful. Anyway, so this story's just weird. Like, it's a little fucked up because there's a little bit of incest. There's definitely a bit of blackface, but it's just weird. So I guess I will just start at the beginning.
Oh, before you start, I would just like to say that this was a recommendation or a request from my soundboarder, Jenna. She wanted us to cover this story at least once, and it's kind of perfect. So, thanks, Jenna.
Thank you. It's funny, I've never heard of it, so I read through it and like the look on my face was probably pretty hilarious because the more I read, I was like, what is happening in this story?
I believe that she said that because she did like a minor in German culture or something like that. And I believe that this is the book she did like her paper on.
Grimm?
Yeah, was this particular story.
I would say it's not very long, so she can do a whole paper on this story.
I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what she said like 6 months ago when we started.
So in this tiny little book, it's about 5 pages long.
Oh, wow.
If you can get a whole paper out, I mean, maybe, I don't, anyway, so we'll start at the very, very beginning. As with most fairy tales, it begins with a king and a queen who are deeply in love with each other. And the queen is apparently super fair, super beautiful, and has golden hair that no other can match. The goldest of the gold. And no one can match her beauty either. And they have a daughter, and everything's well. And then, like with every fairy tale ever, the mother gets sick. And right when she's about to die, she makes the king promise that if he's going to remarry, he has to marry someone as beautiful as she is with the exact same shade of hair.
That's weird.
After he promises, the queen dies, like immediately. And so he's very, very distraught, and he never wants to remarry. However, taking a page out of King Henry VIII's book, the ministers are like, you have to remarry. You have to. We need a queen. And he's like, fine. Send out all the messengers and look for a woman as beautiful as my dead wife with the exact same shade of golden hair. And of course, they come back empty-handed. They can't find a single person, probably only royalty, because let's be real, he's not going to marry a peasant.
I wonder if he did this to like keep him from remarrying or something.
No, maybe. However, it has unintended consequences. So after the messengers come back without finding a bride, he looks at his now grown-ish daughter. Doesn't say her age. I'm going to say probably 16 because that seems to be the golden age of fairy tales. And goes, wait a minute, you're pretty.
No.
You're the image of my wife. And furthermore, you have the exact same hair that she did. Duh, this makes sense. I'm going to marry my daughter. So that's our incest.
I really want to know, like, at what point countries decided that incest was illegal, because goddamn.
So, right. To the daughter's credit, she was totes not okay with this. Like, she was not having it. She's like, this is gross. No. But she can't tell her father no because he's the king, and that, I guess, undermines his authority. Sorry, South Park. And she comes up with what she thinks is an impossible task for him to accomplish. And she says, fine, gross, I'll marry you, really gross, but you have to do these things first. So first she requests a dress that is as golden as the sun. And then she requests another dress that is as silvery as the moon. And then she requests a third dress that is as bright as the stars and like glistens like the stars or something.
Stars! Are you
sparkly?
And very Scarborough Fair, you know, like with all these impossible tasks that they ask you to do. I don't know. When I hear impossible tasks and love or marriage, I just instantly think Scarborough Fair. I don't know. Anyway.
Also, I think of Stardust by Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
Get me the star and I'll marry you. Because Humphrey's going all the way to Ipswich.
Fuck Victoria. She's such a bitch.
Yeah. So anyway, on top of that, she also requests a mantle to be made, which I probably should have Googled to make sure that I'm right. I'm pretty sure it's like a fur coat.
I was gonna say, is that what they're
a wrap?
Yeah, like more like a wrap rather than like a coat.
Yeah, but it's gonna be huge because she says that 1,000 animals out of the kingdom, which is apparently one of every kind of furry animal in the kingdom, must give up a piece of their skin for this mantle. It doesn't sound like she wants them killed for it, which is even worse because you're just like snipping the skin off, just a smidge, the skin off of 1,000 animals to make this fur mantle.
See, and all I can imagine is like scalping the animal.
Or that. All the ears sticking off. Poor babies.
Maybe we should have put like an animal cruelty warning.
Well, I mean,
it's ambiguous.
Animals are killed for clothing back in the day, and now, hopefully humanely. But if you think about them still being alive, it's definitely animal cruelty. So anyway, she's like, that'll never happen because it's supposed to be one of every furry animal in the kingdom, which is 1,000. Somehow she knows this. And she's like, dude, do this and I will marry you, but I'll probably vomit at the altar anyway. But she's very comforted in her thought that he'll never do it.
He'll never do it.
Right.
Make it.
Surprise, surprise. He does it.
You're a rat bastard. You know he
Right?
didn't do it. He hired some people to do it.
Well, he did, but that she didn't say that he couldn't have help.
See,
So
that's
he got
a loophole.
he got the finest seamstresses, the finest spinsters together to create these gorgeous gowns. And he sent his messengers out and captured or got a little bit of fur from everyone and had this mantle made and presented it to her. He's like, dude, we're getting married in 2 days. And she was like, shit. Did not see this coming.
Let me sneak this dagger and then I'm going to kill myself.
No. She doesn't want to die, so she has a different plan. So this part is not explained to me, and I don't know how she does it, but somehow she takes the 3 dresses and hides them in a nut.
What?
No answer. No answer. No answer.
Like a little acorn nut?
I don't know. See if I can find it in here.
Or is it like a coconut?
Would they have coconut? Yeah, so she resolved to run away. In the night, good word by the way, whilst everyone was asleep, she got up and took the 3 different things from her treasures. She takes a golden ring, a golden spinning wheel, and a golden reel. Side note, they never talk about the sizes until much, much later. Imagine them being like little charms, okay?
Oh,
she's not taking an actual golden spinning wheel. It's tiny.
I was thinking like the thing that you put the thread on is what she had, like the spindle, I guess. Is that what that's called?
So, I think that's what the reel is, but she also says a spinning wheel. And my thought when I was reading it was like massive golden spinning wheel. No, trust me, you'll know later why it has to be like tiny.
Oh, okay.
But they don't say that at first, but I'll tell you, tiny. And then it says the 3 dresses of the sun, moon, and stars she put into a nutshell. No idea. But just, I'm going to assume that it was
magic.
Like a little bag.
It's magic. The acorn is the TARDIS, so it's bigger on the inside.
There's no magic in the story, but nice try.
Obviously, there has to be magic if she's putting 3 freaking gowns into a nut.
Yeah, but here's where the blackface starts. And at first, I was like, okay, she's just trying to like look dirty and hide herself. But you'll see a little bit later. So she goes to the fireplace and she takes a bunch of charcoal and darkens her skin and her hands. She takes the fur mantle and wraps it around herself, and she sneaks out and runs all the way to the king's wood, where she, exhausted, falls asleep. However, so like I was like, okay, camouflage. If you're pale, you can be seen in the moonlight. Okay, fine. It wasn't until later that I realized maybe this is worse than that. But anyway, so she sleeps for an entire day until the king who owns this wood, who is not her father, finds her. So they're out hunting, and the dogs find her little like bush that she's sleeping in and growl at her, and they pull her out thinking she's an animal because she's wrapped in this fur. But then they're like, oh my goodness, you're a person.
Gross. So I can just imagine the stench, because thinking about it, if they didn't like properly cure it, ugh. Okay, that was gross. Let's not. Nope.
So they when they see that she's a human, they actually call her Allerlara. that word is her name now. Kind of like Cinderella, Cinderella. And they say, you're not an animal, but I'm going to take you back to the palace anyway. You'll be super useful in the kitchen. We totally need somebody to help out. And that's what they do. They take her back, and she goes to work in the kitchen. She's given a cupboard, and all you imagine is Harry Potter. She's given a cupboard to live in, and she every day helps in the kitchen. She's essentially a scullery maid, which is the absolute worst job that you can have in the kitchen. You do all the hard work. She gets up super early. She goes to bed super late. She's responsible for bringing in water and stoking fires, like all this crap.
Cleaning everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and she wears the fur mantle every
Why?
single day. She's hiding herself, I guess. And she keeps the soot on her face and hands every day. And this is where I'm like, this could be the period where they're thinking of blackface
Yeah.
because she's using it to hide herself. And you can tell if somebody's dirty. I mean, obviously, this would be a bad disguise, but my thought is that because she's purposely blackening her skin, that's how they phrase it, like
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the story, that she's trying to be somebody else, and they assume that she's that.
Right. And they probably wouldn't have like thought twice, and that's why like she was immediately put to work in the kitchens because she was black.
Right, and that's apparently her use, and they say many times that that's all she's good for, which is terrible. Yeah, well, she wants it to be that way. She's trying to hide from her father.
And I mean, to be fair, she was also a princess, so.
Yeah, and she might be recognizable, right?
Well, I was thinking more like maybe she just doesn't know how to do anything.
She seems to be fine in the kitchen. She lives that way for years.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, so imagine that stinky furry mantle.
No!
Never bathing because she doesn't wash the soot off of her face. Ugh, gross. So there one day the king decides to hold a feast, and it goes on for 3 days. The first day she decides that she really wants to go up and enjoy the feast, so she begs the cook, who's her boss, and says, can I go up for just half an hour? And the cook's like, why would you want to go up there? That's not for you. She's like, I just want to see it. And he's like, fine, but you've got to do this, like when you come back you need to make the soup for me so that I can go up and see too, because I'm interested. And she's like, fine. So what she does, she finally takes a bath, a very quick one because there's not time, and she puts on the sundress, the golden sundress, and she goes up and she actually joins the ball and dances with the king, and he's struck by her beauty, and no one knows who she is because I guess everyone in the world forgot who she was. And he's like, oh, and then after half an hour or so, she runs away and like disappears in the crowd, runs back under the cupboard. I almost said the stairs. She runs back to her little cupboard, quickly puts her disguise back on, blackens her face again, puts on her furry thing, and goes and makes the soup so that the cook can go up. However, when she puts the king's soup in a bowl, she takes that golden ring and she drops it in the soup, and it's served to him, and he like really enjoys it. And when he gets to the bottom, he's like, wow, there's a ring here. Obviously my cook could not afford this golden ring who made the soup. And so the cook brings up our all furs girl and is like, she made the soup. And he tries to ask her, you know, where'd you get this ring? How could you have it? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just good for throwing shoes at.
Damn.
Yeah, she's just, they specifically say she's just good for throwing shoes at her head.
I told you, she's useless because she was a princess.
She made excellent soup. I don't know. But anyway, this happens again where there's a second night of the ball, and this time she gets to go up and she wears her moon dress, and the king is even more taken with her, and he's like, I gotta know who she is, but then she runs away, and the same thing happens with the cook, and she makes this soup, because I guess the king just freaking loves soup, and she puts the little golden spindle in it, which is why I say it has to be tiny, because he puts it in his bowl of soup, and the exact same thing happens again, where he brings her upstairs, and he's like, you had to have made this, where did you get the spindle? Who are you? And she's like, I'm only good for throwing shoes at. And he's like, fine, go back to your hole. And she does just that. And then on the third night, exact same thing happens again. She puts on her star dress this time, the glistening, beautiful one. She goes up and she has so much fun dancing with the king that she doesn't notice he slips a ring onto her finger. And she doesn't notice how much time has passed. So when she realizes it and sneaks away, she goes back down to the kitchen and rather than changing, she throws the fur over her pretty dress, like throws soot on her face quickly, and then goes to make the soup so that the now angry cook can go upstairs and enjoy the thing.
I have some questions.
That is fine.
How does she not notice a ring on her hand? How does he know what size ring she wears? And
There are multiple sized fingers he could try it on first.
wouldn't she know after the
Apparently not.
Okay, and then we need to talk about this fur mantle thing. So I'm assuming it's a cloak.
That's what I was thinking because she wears it all the time. She's able to throw it over her dress. Maybe
To
it's
completely hide it.
a coat type thing.
What the heck? I don't.
I don't know. But you think that would give her away as the princess of the neighboring kingdom? Because I'm sure a story of gather 1,000 different animal furs to make this exquisite mantle would spread through the kingdom because that's kind of a feat.
And not even that, the hair, because that was like
I
had to
have
find
She
someone.
probably put soot in the hair too. It doesn't specifically say it, but
Well, I know that, but I mean, like, wouldn't you think she would have washed it out when she
she
changed?
did. But no one thinks about it. Years have passed. And I guess you wouldn't imagine that the missing princess of the neighboring kingdom would suddenly show up to your ball.
I suppose.
Yeah. So anyway, so she throws the fur back on over her star dress and goes to make the soup. Does the same thing, only this time she drops the reel into the bowl of soup. And so when the king calls her up to ask her again about it, he notices that she has the ring on her finger, the one that he slipped on, because that was his way of trying to find out if it was her or not. And he goes, "Aha! I put that on your finger when you were paying attention. I know who you are." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm only good for throwing shoes at." And he's like, "No, seriously. I know you're better than, I guess, what you pretend to be." And that's when she like tries to run out and the mantle slips a little bit and you see a little bit of her starry dress and then someone comes up and takes the mantle off of her and she's like, "Behold in all of her starry glory, covered in soot," by the way. Yeah, and he's like, "You're gonna marry me." And she's like, "Kay."
That's what I wanted this whole time, but I had to play hard to get.
Yeah. His best way of saying it, like, he says, after she's, revealed to be this beautiful woman, he says, "Thou art my dear bride, and we will never more part from each other." Just out of nowhere. And she's like, "That's, like, that's supposed to be me. Wait, are you proposing?"
Yeah.
Because he just declares her his bride. And then they get married and live happily ever after. Until their death. Specifically, the Grimms point out until their death.
Until their death. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He never uncovers her identity, I guess, that she's this princess. He just marries this random girl who makes really good soup.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. And my thought is, like, was she trying to get out of her circumstances? Why was she dropping these little gold bits? Was she trying to make the king curious so that what happened happened? Or was she trying to poison the king?
Like so long later, like, it makes me wonder if, like, maybe she fell in love with the king.
She never saw him before. After he rescued her, she
Yeah.
didn't see him
Yeah,
until
it was like,
this fall.
yeah, like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe she was like, I want to be a princess again. I miss this.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
It's a bit of a short one, but it's definitely a fucked up story. We have
A
I
smidge.
still have questions that will never be answered about.
Yeah. There's got to be motive here.
The ring. Gonna.
I do want to point out we're starting off 2021 without any cannibalism.
I know, but on the flip side, I feel like incest is like the number one, the number two thing on this channel.
We do a lot of incest.
You
So
know,
the story starts with an engagement, I guess, and ends with a different engagement and a different wedding. So it's on theme.
yeah,
It's just weird. And actually, I can't wait till March when we do our fucked up month, which we haven't said yet the details, and I don't know if we want to, but I have 3 stories I'm going to tell in one go
oh man,
that are just as weird as this, where you're like, what is happening? Why is this a story? And then things happen. So, like, I'm trying to think of a moral to this, because I think I found a moral to these other stories that we're reading. They're all grim that I keep reading. My thought is, don't marry your daughter.
no shit, Sherlock.
Sometimes the morals are in your face.
You know, and yeah, we're not all Aesop.
Or maybe don't wait for someone to rescue, because how often is it that in a fairy tale, princess saves her own skin? No.
True, very true.
Yeah. So she tried to trick her way out of it, and when that didn't work, she's like, I'm getting the hell out of here, and she packs up and goes. Like, good for her.
Yeah, I gotta say, she was pretty smart about it. Yeah. She put him through the ringer. I like it. It's, even though it's short, it does give you a lot to like think about and consider.
Yeah,
like
on the surface, you have on the surface like, the fuck is going on? Right. Why is this thing? And then you go deeper and you're like, oh wow, she's actually kind of a great role model. She got her way out of a terrible situation, gets a job, gets herself promoted to queen, like learns how to make excellent soup. That might be the other moral. Learn how to make excellent soup.
I mean, the way to anyone's heart is through their stomach. True fact.
Yes. That works for me.
So I guess that ends our first episode of season 2. The all fur. What is it called again? All kinds of fur? All of fur?
So it translates to all the fur. I will try to pronounce it again, but I have to look at it. Hold on. Where did it go? Okay. Allerleira. Allerleira. It's the R's. The R's like trip up my tongue. Allerleira. Allerleira. I just want to say hallelujah.
All right. So yeah, so that was the story of all the fur, which is a really interesting story. It's a good start. It's a good start.
We started off without cannibalism.
We did.
Just a smidge of incest, but she got out.
You know, it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know who's doing next week's episode. I think it might end up being Vi. She's kind of going to be in and out while she's dealing with everything going on in her life and the wedding and everything. But yeah, see you guys next week. We're going to continue the theme of marriage, and maybe whoever does the next one is a little bit more marriage related.
It's really hard to find stories that deal around a wedding. But we wanted a special month. Should we give a sneak peek to our other month?
I mean, sure. So, February, we're gonna do
tragic love
stories. Which is funny that you say that in March you're doing a 3-in-1. I am also doing a 3-in-1 in February. tragic love stories. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. So that'll be a fun month. And then in March, because of, why did we do it? Because of St. Patty's Day, I guess. I don't remember.
No, we were just like, how funny would this be if we were drunk?
Yeah, so we're doing like a drunk month. So we're going to be drunk while we go through our stories.
It's lovingly entitled Fucked Up Month.
Yeah, and
Fucked Up Fables Fucked Up Month.
For those who don't know, I am alcohol intolerant, so it doesn't take much to get me that way. And I'm also writing my entire script while drunk. So I went the extra mile. And then for April, we're looking at doing trickery and deceiving. There are a lot of good stories that fall in there. And then
Yeah, like in freaking the Shiny Boy episode, the last one. The episode.
I
Stupid lady.
remember the shiny boy. Yes.
The video is still titled Shiny Boy when I uploaded it. Like, that was the official title of that episode.
I love it. He wasn't the shiny boy in my scripts. Like he just stayed the shiny boy. I love it. And then May, we're going to try our best to do some stories that center around the May Festival.
Fertility stories, what they would be. Like
Oh, yeah,
child.
for May Day.
Yeah, May Day is a fertility festival.
Mine is not in any way related to fertility, but it is directly related to May Day, so.
That works.
And I don't think we've planned any other ones, though we should look at on our 1 year that month, revisiting our original month, which was Disney.
Yay! Yay! Because we did Disney Renaissance specifically last time.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like Disney classics or something, because the classics had a lot of fairy tales in them.
Yes.
So.
I really, really enjoy Rapunzel.
She wasn't a classic, though.
She's not a classic, no. But I was going through in my head, I was like, Cinderella's pretty fucked up. So is Sleeping Beauty. And then it just clicked. I was like, Rapunzel was a really, really good one, too.
It was. It is so good. But then I'm over here like, but we could do also non-Disney, because Fox is now owned by Disney, but a lot of those movies people thought were like Disney. So that could be a fun one, too. Some of those are loosely based on, they're mostly real life things, but still.
Anyways. Anastasia is my favorite. Yeah.
Mine would have to be Sinbad.
We could totally do, I don't know, something. We'll think it through. Side note, I meant to mention the difference between this story and the Green Fairy story. There's no incest. There's no incest. There's none of that nonsense. It's just a runaway princess story.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.